As Roman strode into Benedict's castle, the aristocratic soldiers recoiled in alarm, branding him as the feared demon of Cairo and rallying to eliminate him by any means necessary. Yet, Roman welcomed the epithet with a wry smile, finding a strange sense of pride in the moniker. With a swift and calculated grace, he dispatched his adversaries with ease, leaving a trail of defeated foes in his wake. Meanwhile, in a clandestine magical communication, an aristocratic soldier delivered grim tidings to the faction's leaders. The castle walls had been breached, the defensive shield depleted, and Roman Dimitri's forces had routed the soldiers sent by each noble family. Before the soldier could finish, Roman seized control of the communication device, his voice resonating with steely resolve. Addressing the assembled traitors, Roman's words dripped with disdain as he assured them of their impending demise. He dismissed any hope of mercy, declaring that they would face the full extent of his wrath for betraying their homeland. Even if they were to beg for clemency, Roman vowed to mete out justice upon them and their descendants for generations to come. Marquis Benedict, stunned into silence, could only listen as Roman delivered his chilling ultimatum. With a final warning, Roman promised that their paths would cross soon, leaving Benedict to ponder the inevitability of their reckoning. A decade prior, the corridors of power in Cairo bore witness to a pivotal exchange between King Daniel and Marquis Benedict. King Daniel, cognizant of the precarious situation with the empire, implored Benedict to consider the lives of those valiantly battling against imperial forces. Frustrated by what he perceived as the king's incompetence, Benedict discerned that Cairo's inability to make swift decisions had allowed pro-imperial factions, aligned with Valhalla and Kronos, to expand their influence, gradually gaining control over the city. The funeral of the queen, who also happened to be Benedict's sister, became a somber backdrop for contemplation. A disquieting thought gnawed at Benedict's mind, wondering if Cairo could endure under the continued rule of the seemingly ineffective king. This contemplation stirred a profound dissatisfaction within Marquis Benedict, prompting him to express his lack of trust in Cairo's royal family to other nobles. A collective sentiment resonated among the discontented nobles, leading them to forge an alliance that marked the inception of the aristocratic faction. While their initial focus was born out of dissatisfaction with the monarchy, the faction's objectives evolved over time. Marquis Benedict, in particular, began to harbor ambitions of ascending the throne, setting in motion a series of clandestine maneuvers that would culminate in a bid for power. Fast forward to the present, and Marquis Benedict found himself in a state of panic, reeling from the impact of Roman's ominous words during the magical communication. As he reflected on the intricate web of events that had led to this moment, Benedict realized that Roman Dimitri had effectively dismantled his carefully laid plans to seize control of Cairo. A sense of impending doom gripped Benedict, realizing that his life hung in the balance if he remained entangled in this mess. Faced with the urgency of the situation, Marquis Benedict, driven by fear and desperation, rallied the remaining members of the aristocratic faction. In a desperate bid for survival, he urged them to scatter and seek refuge while appealing to the Kronos Empire for assistance. Chaos erupted as the faction members, once united in their dissent, now scattered like leaves in the wind, each seeking refuge and salvation. Amidst the chaos, the unexpected figure of Kevin, one of Roman's formidable soldiers, emerged as the harbinger of doom for Benedict and his fleeing comrades. Positioned strategically at the gates, Kevin intercepted the retreating faction members, swiftly taking down the soldiers tasked with guarding the escape routes. In a futile attempt to resist the inevitable, Benedict commanded his remaining soldiers to attack Kevin, hoping to turn the tide in their favor. However, Kevin, a force to be reckoned with, effortlessly neutralized the attacking soldiers with a single, decisive strike. The sight left Marquis Benedict stunned and disoriented, prompting him to abandon his futile attempt at resistance. In a desperate bid for self-preservation, Benedict hastily retreated, racing toward the other end of the corridor. In the unfolding drama of betrayal and pursuit, the narrative took a dramatic turn as Chris emerged from the shadows, boldly positioning himself in front of Marquis Benedict. With a decisive strike, Chris swiftly incapacitated the soldiers attempting to shield their leader. Witnessing this unexpected intervention, Benedict's survival instincts kicked in, propelling him into a frenzied sprint for his life. As he darted through the perilous terrain, the urgency of the moment eclipsed any other considerations in Benedict's mind. Thoughts of vengeance simmered beneath the surface, a vow to settle scores in the future once he had eluded the immediate threat. Spotting a concealed cave entrance, Benedict seized the opportunity for temporary respite, vanishing into the refuge of its shadows just as the royal soldiers spilled from the castle, determined to track him down. Within the hidden sanctuary, Benedict, while contemplating the tumultuous events, couldn't shake the bitter realization that everything had gone awry due to the meddling of Roman Dmitri. Despite the throne of Cairo beckoning tantalizingly close, it seemed an unattainable dream, overshadowed by the chaotic repercussions of Roman's interference. Benedict's aspirations pivoted from seizing power to a fervent desire for revenge, a commitment to redress the perceived insults he had suffered. However, amidst the echoes of Benedict's contemplation, a member of the aristocratic faction emerged with somber news. Their escape routes were blocked, and the possibility of evasion seemed extinguished. As Viscount Owen approached, Benedict tensed, anticipating the worst. The air was thick with tension, the outcome hanging in the balance. Yet, before Viscount Owen could execute his next move, the dynamic shifted once more with Roman's sudden intervention. With strategic precision, Roman incapacitated Owen. The cave's entrance now harbored an unexpected visitor, as Roman entered and issued a stern command for Benedict to reveal himself. In the dim recesses of the cave, Benedict faced a pivotal choice: comply with Roman's directive or resist, risking further escalation. The weight of the decision pressed heavily on Benedict's shoulders as he emerged from the shadows, his fate now inextricably tied to the whims of the enigmatic Roman. The scene transitioned to the bustling streets of Cairo, where Benedict, now in handcuffs, was paraded before the public eye under Roman's watchful gaze. Frustration and indignation boiled within Benedict as he confronted Roman, protesting vehemently against the perceived injustice. He argued passionately, highlighting his sacrificial efforts in defense of Cairo during the reign of the perceived incompetent King Daniel. Benedict questioned the fairness of his treatment, grappling with the notion that his allegiance to the kingdom should have shielded him from such a humiliating fate. In a desperate attempt to assert his worth, Benedict challenged Roman's understanding of loyalty, probing whether Roman could truly serve a king like Daniel with undivided devotion. Benedict's tirade extended to the recurrent border breaches by the Kronos Empire, laying blame squarely on the shoulders of traitors within Cairo's borders. Marquis Benedict, plagued by doubt, turns to Roman, seeking validation for his actions. Roman, though understanding, points out the lack of tangible results from Benedict's endeavors. Despite Benedict's formation of the aristocratic faction, Cairo remains unchanged in its power dynamics, and the kingdom's security hasn't improved. Roman urges Benedict to consider serving a greater purpose beyond personal gain. Stunned by Roman's insight, Benedict reflects on his choices. Roman reassures him that protecting the weak is commendable, but cautions against disregarding the consequences. Benedict, repentant, offers allegiance to the royal family, but Roman deems it too late. With a single decisive blow, Roman ends Benedict's reign, extinguishing the once mighty giant of Cairo. The scene transitions to the royal palace, where a soldier informs King Daniel of Roman's triumph over Benedict and the aristocratic faction. Daniel, recognizing Roman's accomplishment, prepares to celebrate. However, his focus remains on the looming threat from the Kronos Empire advancing towards the western front lines. Daniel urges Roman's immediate deployment to confront this danger. Promising Roman the highest reward in due time, Daniel underscores the urgency of Roman's task and the paramount importance of securing the kingdom's borders against external threats. In the ethereal realm of the Western Third Defense Line, a commander's voice echoed through the magic hall, announcing a crucial message by the decree of His Majesty. The fate of the rebellion lay in the hands of this defense line, and the commander conveyed the king's command. If they could endure for a mere 3 days, the rebellion would be quelled, and Roman Dmitri would be dispatched to reinforce the western front. The call held an air of urgency, emphasizing the pivotal role the defense line played in the unfolding drama. The focus shifted to the figure of Flora. The commander's proclamation hinted at her earlier prediction, marking her as a noteworthy figure on the Western Front. Flora had emerged as a standout persona after her meeting with Roman Dmitri and her subsequent departure from Lawrence to enroll in the Royal Academy. Flora's journey did not end with her enrollment. Instead, she delved into the intricacies of tactics, evolving into a formidable force. Flora carved her path, becoming the first female staff officer in Cairo. The acceptance of Flora's appointment was not immediate. The decision sparked various opinions, with many questioning the unorthodox choice. However, as Flora demonstrated her strategic prowess and leadership skills, doubts began to dissipate. Her capabilities became increasingly evident, and she earned recognition not merely as a female officer but as a competent and skilled leader. The scene seamlessly transitioned to a meeting within the confines of the Western 3rd Defense Line, where the head of staff, Baron Noel, addressed a gathering of officers. Baron Noel, a seasoned strategist, painted a pragmatic picture. He declared the impracticality of quelling the rebellion within the stipulated 3 days and urged the officers to brace themselves for a prolonged battle. The air hung heavy with uncertainty as Baron Noel highlighted the logistical challenges, even if the Western forces successfully quelled the rebellion using warp gates. Travel time alone would consume a day or two, making the 3-day deadline seem like an impossible feat. The prospect of failure loomed over the room, casting a shadow on the confidence of the assembled officers. However, amidst the gloom, the voice of reason emerged in the form of Flora. With unwavering confidence, she expressed a dissenting opinion, challenging the prevailing narrative. Flora speculated that Roman Dmitri had set the 3-day deadline, but she confidently asserted that the timeline wouldn't exceed 5 days. Count Vandenberg, the Western Front commander, sought clarification from Flora, prompting her to draw from her direct experiences with Roman. She painted a nuanced portrait of Roman Dmitri, emphasizing his unpredictability and the inadequacy of judging him by common standards. Flora's conviction in her assessment of Roman's character resonated through her words, instilling a sense of cautious optimism within the gathering. Count Vandenberg remained skeptical, questioning the foundation of Flora's judgment. Undeterred, Flora pointed to the external pressures faced by Roman and the looming collapse of Duke Benedict, indicating a sense of urgency that transcended conventional expectations. Kronos, the formidable aggressor, had breached Cairo's western borders, leaving turmoil and uncertainty in its wake. As the citizens of Cairo grappled with the imminent threat, Flora, a seasoned strategist, took charge, revealing a map that meticulously outlined Kronos' attack patterns. It was a grim testament to the ruthless efficiency of their enemy. Flora's eyes scanned the faces of those gathered, her voice steady as she relayed crucial information. She elucidated Kronos' tactics, highlighting their penchant for melee combat upon invasion and the subsequent deployment of war mages for pivotal engagements. It was a pattern they had observed, a pattern that had led them to the precipice of their current predicament. Count Vandenberg, a stalwart leader amongst them, listened intently as Flora continued. With a keen understanding of the enemy's strengths, he voiced concerns about Kronos' possession of mage towers, foreseeing their potential to amplify the mage's power. Flora acknowledged the gravity of the situation, emphasizing the vulnerability of mages during spellcasting. Eliminate the mage variable, Flora urged, her tone resolute. She proposed a strategy wherein Cairo's forces would anticipate the mage's movements and lay traps accordingly. It was a bold plan, but Count Vandenberg balked at its feasibility. How could they possibly discern the precise location of the elusive mages, especially when they could sense mana fluctuations? Flora's response was unwavering. Force their hand, she declared. By orchestrating a grand warrior battle, Cairo could compel Kronos to mobilize their troops, thereby exposing the mages' positions. It was a risky gambit, but one that held the promise of turning the tide in their favor. Count Vandenberg pondered the implications, his mind racing with possibilities. The plan had merit, but there remained a crucial question. How would they evade detection by the mages? Flora's answer was as ingenious as it was audacious. Warriors, she explained, could manipulate the surrounding mana to obscure the traps, rendering them undetectable even to the keen senses of the mages. The realization dawned on Count Vandenberg, a glimmer of hope amidst the encroaching darkness. Flora's proposal was nothing short of brilliant, offering a tangible path to victory in the face of overwhelming odds. But there was one final hurdle to overcome, finding a warrior bold enough to assume the mantle of the Grand Warrior, a beacon of hope in their darkest hour. As tension hung thick in the air, a voice broke through the silence. Rodwell Dmitri, a figure previously relegated to the periphery, stepped forward with unwavering resolve. "I will do it," he declared, his voice ringing with determination. In the face of impending conflict, Rodwell felt compelled to step up and participate in the Grand Warrior battle. Turning to his commander, he made his request known, his determination evident in his eyes. Count Vandenberg, recognizing the inevitability of Rodwell's involvement, affirmed his pivotal role in the forthcoming confrontation. Afterwards, outside the confines of the command center, Flora sought out Rodwell, her curiosity piqued by his unwavering eagerness to take on perilous tasks. She couldn't fathom why Rodwell, whose service time had long expired, continued to linger amidst the chaos of battle. To Flora, Rodwell appeared less a patriot and more a desperate soul clinging to life, unwilling to accept his own mortality. Despite her skepticism, Flora conceded the necessity of Rodwell's involvement, particularly considering his potential as a future leader within their ranks. Rodwell, however, confided in Flora a deeper motivation, his burning ambition to surpass the legacy of the Romans. This revelation caught Flora off guard. Initially resistant to change, Rodwell now aspired not only to emulate but to surpass the renowned Romans, a pursuit that fueled his continued service to Cairo. Flora, in turn, shared her own reasons for remaining in the fray, a desire to learn from past mistakes and prevent their recurrence in the future. Their conversation took on a somber tone as Flora implored Rodwell to emerge victorious at any cost, expressing a genuine hope for his survival. With their exchange concluded, they prepared themselves mentally for the impending battle, steeling their resolve for what lay ahead. The following day dawned with a palpable tension in the air as Rodwell stepped forward, his gaze unwavering as he issued a bold challenge to the Kronos Empire. Across the battlefield, his opponent, Ospard, a formidable 3-star aura swordsman, stood ready to accept the challenge. In that moment, Rodwell grappled with the stark reality of his situation. In Cairo, achieving a 3-star rank was considered prestigious, yet in the eyes of the Kronos Empire, even the lowest-ranking soldiers boasted 4-star prowess. It was a testament to the formidable nature of their adversary, a reminder of the daunting odds they faced. As the duel commenced, Ospard surged forward with a fierce determination, his aura ablaze with intensity. In the midst of the intense battle, Rodwell found himself struggling to fend off his opponent's relentless assaults. As Kronos soldiers rallied behind Ospard, their cheers echoing across the battlefield, Rodwell couldn't help but feel the gaping disparity between their worlds and his own in Cairo. Despite his valiant efforts, he couldn't bridge the chasm separating him from his brother. Yet, undeterred by the odds stacked against him, Rodwell remained resolute, determined to fight until the bitter end. As Ospard launched a fierce attack, his aura blade aimed squarely at Rodwell's face. A surge of urgency pulsed through Rodwell's veins. Dodging meant conceding defeat, but failure to evade the strike risked losing his sight. In a split-second decision, Rodwell abandoned caution and charged headlong towards Ospard, his sword poised to strike. With a swift and decisive maneuver, Rodwell overpowered his opponent, sending Ospard crashing to the ground. As victory was declared, Rodwell stood triumphant, a victorious smile etched upon his face, despite the injuries sustained from Ospard's final assault. As Rodwell returned to the camp, his heart pounded with anticipation, seeking confirmation from Flora about the success of their meticulously crafted plan. Flora's assurance washed over him like a soothing balm, relieving the tension that had gripped him since the onset of their daring strategy. The weight of uncertainty lifted from his shoulders, replaced by a glimmer of hope for their besieged city. Meanwhile, amidst the ranks of the Kronos forces, Count Fabius, a commanding figure with an aura of authority, issued swift directives to his soldiers. Their arsenal, including the ominous flare weapon and the formidable war mages, stood poised for action. Across the battlefield, the sight of these imposing assets sent a shiver down the spines of the Cairo defenders, reminding them of the daunting task that lay ahead. Sensing the impending confrontation, Count Vanderburg, a stalwart leader among the Cairo forces, turned to Flora for guidance. His inquiry regarding the timing of the magic trap detonation revealed his trust in Flora's strategic acumen. Flora's response was measured and insightful, emphasizing the importance of precision in triggering the traps. She highlighted the vulnerability of the Kronos mages at the peak of their spellcasting, underscoring the need for meticulous timing to ensure maximum impact. With Flora's expertise guiding their actions, Count Vanderburg nodded in understanding, entrusting her with the pivotal task of signaling the detonation. His confidence in Flora's judgment bolstered their resolve, strengthening their resolve to face the impending onslaught with unwavering determination. As the Kronos mages began their incantations, a tense silence descended upon the battlefield, broken only by the crackling energy of anticipation. Flora's signal rippled through the Cairo ranks like a ripple on a pond, prompting Count Vanderburg to issue the command for the magic traps to be unleashed. In an instant, the air was rent asunder by a deafening explosion, engulfing the Kronos mages in a maelstrom of arcane energy. As Fabius, the esteemed commander of Kronos, surveyed the battlefield, his expression twisted into one of surprise. He issued a resolute command to his soldiers, urging them to unleash their might upon the forces of Cairo. With audacity, Cairo dared to oppose the empire, and Fabius vowed that Kronos would demonstrate the true extent of its power. In a synchronized onslaught, the Kronos soldiers surged forward, their determination palpable as they charged towards the Cairo forces. Despite their relentless advance, The Cairo soldiers stood firm, steadfastly defending their city's walls. They repelled the Kronos soldiers, pushing them back with unwavering resolve. Amidst the chaos, a sudden intervention from Flora disrupted the fray. With precision, she loosed an arrow, felling one of the Kronos soldiers. Her voice rang out, rallying the Cairo soldiers to maintain their focus. She reminded them of their advantage, now that the Kronos forces had lost their magician. Amidst the chaos of battle, Flora's voice rose above the din, rallying the Cairo soldiers with unwavering resolve. Families huddled in fear within the confines of Cairo, their safety threatened by the relentless advance of the Kronos Empire. The battle raged on relentlessly, each passing moment bringing the besieged city closer to the brink of collapse. Kronos forces, seemingly on the verge of breaching the fortified walls, began to falter under the weight of prolonged conflict. Then, on the third day, a glimmer of hope emerged on the horizon as the army led by Lord Roman Dmitri arrived at Cairo's western front. The sight of Roman's forces sent shockwaves through the ranks of the Kronos Empire, prompting a hasty retreat. Inside the war room, the commanders of the Cairo forces convened to assess the situation. Count Vanderburg marveled at the swiftness with which the rebellion had been quelled, expressing gratitude to Roman for his timely intervention. However, Roman cautioned that the war was far from over, urging the Cairo forces to remain vigilant. Count Vanderburg, puzzled by the need for further mobilization, questioned Roman's rationale. Roman, gesturing towards the map, pointed out the audacity of Kronos' intrusion into Cairo's territory. He emphasized that Cairo could no longer afford to passively endure Kronos' aggression and must instead adopt a proactive stance. With the king's authority backing him, Roman declared his intent to lead the charge against the retreating Kronos forces. He instructed the commanders to prepare the troops to pursue and drive back the invaders, signaling a shift in strategy that caught many by surprise. Among those taken aback was Rodwell, who struggled to reconcile the image of the man before him with his memories of Roman. Recollections flooded Rodwell's mind of a different Roman, one consumed by vice, detached from the honor of swordsmanship, and frequently embroiled in tavern brawls. In disbelief, Rodwell marveled at the profound transformation that had taken place within his elder brother in such a short span of time. Roman's voice and demeanor bore little resemblance to the wayward soul Rodwell once knew. Yet there was no denying his identity. For Rodwell, who had dedicated his life to upholding the family name on the Western Front, Roman's sudden emergence overshadowed his own achievements, leaving him questioning the significance of his endeavors. Rodwell, once hailed as the future hope of the Dmitri family, found himself grappling with a sense of disillusionment. The weight of his past ambitions now felt like burdensome shackles, leaving him questioning the purpose of his ongoing struggle. As he reflected on his journey, doubts crept in, and he couldn't help but wonder if it had all been in vain. Baron Neil's voice cut through the somber atmosphere, questioning the tangible benefits of engaging in relentless conflict with the Kronos Empire. His inquiry struck a chord with Rodwell, echoing the doubts that had been festering within him. Flora, ever pragmatic, added her voice to the conversation, expressing concern for the soldiers who had endured the grueling schedule of the past few days. Her words painted a stark picture of the toll that continuous warfare had taken on their ranks, prompting her to caution against hasty decisions that could lead to further devastation. Count Vanderburg, known for his strategic insight, offered a perspective that sought to balance caution with necessity. He underscored the strategic importance of the Western Front, emphasizing that their mission was not simply to vanquish the Kronos forces but to safeguard the safety and security of Cairo. His words resonated with a sense of pragmatism, advocating for a measured approach that prioritized the long-term interests of their city. In contrast, Roman's presence brought a solemn gravity to the discussion. With a seriousness in his gaze, he challenged the group to consider the broader implications of their actions. He reminded them of the ongoing conflict between Kronos and the Southern Kingdom's alliance, suggesting that their enemies were currently unable to commit their full forces to the confrontation. Roman's words carried a weight of conviction, urging his comrades to rise to the occasion and confront the atrocities perpetrated by the Kronos Empire. The revelation of Roman's unwavering resolve left the gathered commanders reeling, prompting Count Vanderburg to seek guidance on their next steps. As the scene shifted to a few moments later, Flora found herself contemplating Roman's steadfast commitment to their cause. Despite his transformation from his reckless past, she couldn't help but feel a sense of awe at his unwavering determination. Her thoughts were interrupted by the unexpected sight of Roman and Rodwell standing together. Roman, ever perceptive, acknowledged Rodwell's recent injury sustained during the warrior battle. With genuine gratitude, he credited Rodwell with playing a pivotal role in dealing with the Kronos mages and ensuring the defense of the Western Front until his own arrival. His words carried a sincerity that resonated deeply with Rodwell, leaving him flustered by the sudden shift in their dynamic. Roman pondered the relationship between himself and Rodwell Dmitri, his brother. Despite forming new bonds in his current life, Roman felt compelled to approach Rodwell. With a sense of caution, Roman acknowledged that Rodwell might not yet be ready to welcome him back into his life. However, he imparted a solemn reminder to Rodwell, urging him to consider one crucial fact. If Rodwell chose to stand by Roman's side tomorrow, they would together unleash the full force of the Dmitri name upon those who dared to harm them. With a steely gaze, Roman conveyed the gravity of their shared plight. As retribution for the loss of Rodwell's eye, Roman vowed that the Kronos Empire would pay a heavy toll in lives. He emphasized the bond between them, urging Rodwell to remember their brotherhood despite the trials that lay ahead. The narrative unfolds in the Kronos camp, where Baron Charlton, a figure of the diplomatic corps, delivers a disheartening message to Count Fabius. The rebellion, led by Benedict, has crumbled entirely, and the arrival of the royal army at the Western Front prompts Baron Charlton to suggest that Count Fabius consider a strategic retreat. The news catches Count Perius by surprise, leaving him incredulous at the speed of Benedict's failure. Count Fabius, although taken aback, stands firm. Fleeing is not an option for him, and he articulates that his honor and commitment to his troops prevent him from abandoning his post despite considerable losses. Baron Charlton, however, emphasizes the broader ramifications of their actions, highlighting the Empire's primary focus on the conflict with the Kingdom Alliance. He urges Count Fabius to carefully weigh the consequences of losing even a fraction of their forces, as it could impact the larger southern territories. Frustrated but ultimately conceding to Charlton's counsel, Count Perius agrees with the proposal to order a retreat at the break of dawn. The scene transitions to the next day, where all Kronos forces are in the process of withdrawing. A soldier suggests leaving scouts behind to prepare for potential threats, but Count Fabius dismisses the idea, expressing confidence in facing any pursuing Cairo forces head-on. As the Kronos forces strategically withdraw, a sudden development occurs. A vigilant soldier spots an approaching enemy army from the rear. Count Fabius, displaying a sly smirk, is not surprised. Instead, he sees this as an opportunity for a strategic trap. Quickly, he orders his soldiers to turn and face the approaching enemy, eager to exploit the situation to crush the Cairo forces and potentially bring about the collapse of the Western Front. The tension mounts as both Cairo and Kronos forces clash in a fierce and unexpected battle. Meanwhile, the narrative shifts to the previous night at the Cairo strategy camp. Leaders gather to discuss their expectations as they prepare for the anticipated retreat of the Kronos Empire's army. Their strategy was simple yet bold: divide and conquer. With the enemy stretched out in a long column, the Cairo forces devised a plan to split into two groups and launch simultaneous attacks on both the center and rear of the Kronos ranks. Roman, alongside Rodwell and Chris, would lead the assault on the center, while Duke Vanderburg, Baron Neil, and Flora would coordinate the attack on the rear. Despite the apparent riskiness of dividing their forces, especially with potential dangers lurking in the rear, the Cairo commanders remained undeterred. Roman reassured Baron Neil, explaining that once the center attack gained traction, reinforcements would be dispatched to bolster the rear assault. Their goal was clear: sow chaos among the Kronos ranks and secure a decisive victory for Cairo. Roman's unwavering confidence in their success resonated with his comrades as they prepared to execute their plan. As the scene shifted back to the battlefield, the Kronos vice commander rallied his troops, reminding them of their allegiance to the Empire and urging them not to falter in the face of the Cairo onslaught. Empowered by his words, the Kronos soldiers regained their footing and began to push back against the Cairo forces. Count Vanderburg, observing the resilience of the Kronos troops, recognized the formidable nature of an empire accustomed to invasion. Concerned by the shifting momentum, Vanderburg rallied his own troops, encouraging them to stand firm and press on against the imperial soldiers. In the heart of the conflict, a stark dichotomy unfolded. While Vanderburg's forces struggled to maintain their ground, a one-sided massacre ensued in the center of the battlefield. Chris and his fellow Roman soldiers executed their attack with ruthless efficiency, swiftly overwhelming the Kronos forces. Witnessing the ferocity of their assault, Rodwell found himself in disbelief. The soldiers of the Dmitri lineage, once considered formidable but now transformed into seemingly unstoppable warriors, left Rodwell awestruck. As the battle raged on, Rodwell's thoughts drifted back to a pivotal moment shared with his brother Roman. Reflecting on the night when Roman had urged him to join their cause, promising to reveal the true strength of the Dmitri legacy, Rodwell struggled to comprehend the significance of his brother's words at the time. Rodwell's mind churned with newfound understanding as Roman outlined their next move. Roman directed Chris to split their forces, with Chris assuming command and leading a unit to the rear while Roman intercepted the approaching Kronos Empire forces from the side. Rodwell, taken aback by this sudden decision, grappled with the realization that Roman might be leaving him behind. As Chris departed with the second unit, Rodwell couldn't shake the feeling of uncertainty lingering in his mind. Meanwhile, at the rear of the battlefield, the Cairo forces found themselves on the defensive, steadily being pushed back by the relentless advance of the Kronos troops. Flora, sensing the urgency of the situation, signaled to Count Vanderberg, prompting the Cairo soldiers to form a shield wall. The Kronos forces, caught off guard by this unexpected maneuver, attempted to breach the defensive line, but the Cairo soldiers held firm, leaving no openings for their adversaries. Just as the Kronos forces intensified their efforts to break through the shield wall, Chris arrived at the rear with the second unit, injecting a surge of hope into the embattled Cairo ranks. Count Vanderberg wasted no time, instructing the soldiers to break formation and launch a counterattack. Chris, rallying his unit, urged them to showcase the strength of the Dmitri legacy. With remarkable skill and coordination, Chris and his soldiers swiftly dispatched a significant number of Kronos troops. Observing the prowess of Roman's knights in action, Flora marveled at their effectiveness in turning the tide of battle with only a small contingent. From the ranks of the Kronos soldiers emerged a formidable adversary, a 3-star Aura Knight, determined to confront Chris. However, before the knight could even raise his sword, Chris unleashed his flash technique, swiftly incapacitating the opponent with a single, decisive strike. The stage is set in the heart of the expansive Kronos Empire, where the solitary figure of Roman stands as a defiant force against the encroaching Kronos soldiers. Count Fabius, a prominent figure in the empire, watches in disbelief as Roman takes on the soldiers with unparalleled determination. Amidst the chaos, a messenger urgently approaches Count Fabius, bearing news of a perilous situation unfolding at the rear. Frustration etches Count Fabius's face as he commands the soldier to prioritize dealing with Roman, convinced that once Roman is subdued, the Kronos forces can swiftly address the looming threat at the rear. Little does Count Fabius know that Roman, sensing an opportunity, is already making his way towards him. As Roman advances, a sudden shift in the narrative unfolds. Gustavo, a seasoned commander and the leader of the 10th Knight Squad of Kronos, emerges to thwart Roman's progress. Gustavo's reputation precedes him, ranked 78th in the continent and 35th within Kronos. His presence alone signifies the seriousness of the situation. The clash begins, with Gustavo utilizing his aura to create an impenetrable barrier, attempting to halt Roman's advance. Roman, however, seems undeterred. A momentary pause ensues as both warriors assess each other. Roman, recognizing Gustavo's strength, prepares for what promises to be a fierce confrontation. Gustavo, embodying the essence of a skilled knight, leaps into the air, brandishing his aura-infused sword. The battle unfolds with breathtaking intensity as Gustavo delivers a flurry of strikes, each imbued with the power of his aura. Roman, armed with his sword, defends against the onslaught with remarkable skill and agility. In a surprising turn of events, two Kronos soldiers attempt a sneak attack from behind, seeking to exploit a potential vulnerability in Roman's defense. To their dismay, Roman, in a display of incredible reflexes, spins around and swiftly dispatches the assailants with a single sweeping motion of his sword. The seamless transition from defense to offense leaves both soldiers incapacitated at Roman's feet. Gustavo, witnessing Roman's mastery over the situation, is taken aback by the resilience and skill displayed. The coordinated efforts of the Kronos soldiers, even under the command of a seasoned knight like Gustavo, prove insufficient to overpower Roman. In that moment, Gustavo recognizes the true threat that Roman Dmitri poses, a force to be reckoned with, more formidable than he had initially estimated. As the battle intensifies, Gustavo contemplates drastic measures. A growing sense of urgency grips him, and he entertains the idea of employing forbidden magic. The gravity of the situation prompts Gustavo to place his hand on his stomach, a precursor to tapping into a well of power that transcends conventional combat techniques. Roman, observing Gustavo's peculiar actions, senses that something extraordinary is unfolding. The air around Gustavo shimmers with a distinctive yellow aura, signaling the deployment of innate energy. Innate energy, the life force one is naturally endowed with, remains beyond artificial accumulation. Roman's exhaustive studies across the continent unveiled no known method to harness this inherent power. The encounter with Gustavo, had it occurred a year prior, would have posed a grave threat. Gustavo's strikes aimed at Roman with full force, yet Roman deftly parried each blow, leaving Gustavo astonished by his skill. Employing the celestial evil technique, Roman executed the middle stage of the 3-second stance, swiftly incapacitating Gustavo with a single precise strike. A dense cloud of smoke erupted, a testament to Roman Dimitri's overwhelming might, leaving Kronos soldiers dumbfounded at their commander's defeat. Roman pressed forward, dislodging Count Fabius from his horse with a forceful kick. Count Fabius, sprawled on the ground, questioned Roman's audacity, reminding him of Count Parchus's esteemed status within the empire. Even amid the chaos of war, Count Fabius cautioned Roman about the repercussions of harming a noble of the empire, warning of a life forever shadowed by the empire's assassins. Undaunted, Roman asserted his awareness of the risks, silencing Count Fabius and sealing his fate. With resolute determination, Roman swiftly subdued Count Parchus as well, cementing his dominance over the battlefield. Meanwhile, in the rear lines, soldiers watched in awe as smoke billowed from the heart of the Kronos forces. Chris, radiating confidence, reassured Count Vanderberg, dispelling his fears of an impending catastrophe. Count Vanderberg, initially skeptical of Chris's assurance, noticed a green signal hovering in the sky, a beacon of Roman's triumph. The scene shifted to the opulent halls of the Cairo royal palace, where a soldier delivered pivotal news to King Daniel. Roman Dimitri had achieved a decisive victory over the Kronos forces in the Western Front. King Daniel's face lit up with a radiant smile as he received the news, his heart swelling with pride and relief. Without delay, he summoned Count Vanderberg via magical communication to glean further details. With a solemn tone, Count Vanderberg relayed the recent events in the Western Front. He recounted how, alongside Roman, they had successfully neutralized Count Fabius, a prominent Kronos commander, and apprehended the remaining Kronos troops. Curiosity piqued, King Daniel inquired about the toll on Cairo. Count Vanderberg's response painted a picture of minimal losses, attributed to Roman's strategic prowess and tactical brilliance. The king couldn't help but marvel at Roman's dedication and effectiveness on the battlefield, realizing that Roman had exceeded expectations and played a pivotal role in securing Cairo's safety. With a newfound sense of confidence, King Daniel resolved to handle negotiations with the Kronos Empire meticulously. He understood the delicate balance of power and the importance of diplomatic finesse in such turbulent times. Concerned about the well-being of Kronos Empire prisoners, King Daniel instructed his staff to ensure their safety, adamant about resolving the conflict without further bloodshed. The workers swiftly mobilized, heeding the king's orders with unwavering diligence. Meanwhile, on the Western Plains, Baron Noel approached Roman with humility and contrition. He bowed respectfully, expressing regret for his previous opposition to Roman's plans. Grateful for Roman's leadership and courage, Baron Noel sought to extend his apologies and gratitude. Roman, recognizing the sincerity in Baron Noel's words, acknowledged him as a man of integrity and honor. Despite accepting Baron Noel's apology, Roman imparted a crucial lesson on the dangers of blind trust in the chaos of battle. He emphasized the importance of diverse perspectives and opposing viewpoints in making informed decisions. Roman assured Baron Noel that his dissent had been necessary and valuable, fostering a deeper understanding between them. Baron Noel, moved by Roman's wisdom and generosity, shared news of Cairo's success in securing Kronos prisoners. He anticipated that this triumph would strengthen Cairo's position in negotiations with the empire. However, Roman remained cautious, foreseeing challenges ahead. Drawing from his experiences and keen insight into the empire's motives, Roman voiced skepticism about the likelihood of fruitful negotiations. In Roman's eyes, the empire's history of aggression and expansionism suggested that negotiations would be fraught with difficulty. He warned Baron Noel of the empire's probable insistence on unreasonable demands, especially in retaliation for the recent attack. In the intricate dance of international conflicts, the initial reasons for warfare may hold sway, but ultimately, it is the raw exercise of power that dictates outcomes. Roman's words cut through the tension, highlighting the stark reality that now faces the empire. The fact that a comparatively smaller entity like Cairo has managed to defeat Kronos sends shockwaves through the ranks. Baron Noel, visibly shaken, turns to Roman seeking guidance on the next steps for Cairo. With measured resolve, Roman elucidates that to forge ahead, Cairo must confront the aftermath head-on. To retreat now would only invite further repercussions, so Cairo must brace itself for the next battleground, negotiation. Meanwhile, in the chambers of the Cairo kingdom, Baron Charlton, a key figure in the Kronos foreign ministry, engages in a magical dialogue with King Daniel. Charlton, speaking with the weight of the empire behind him, lays out Kronos' stance. He explains that Kronos' incursion into Cairo was instigated at the behest of Duke Benedict. However, with the fall of Benedict, Kronos had signaled its intention by withdrawing its forces. The actions taken by Cairo, however, exceeded the bounds of self-defense. The ruthless elimination of Count Fabius and Commander Gustavo, both esteemed figures in Kronos, painted a grim picture. King Daniel, while acknowledging Cairo's engagement in war, questions the morality of such brutal reprisals. Charlton, conceding the wrongful nature of Cairo's actions, demands recompense on behalf of the empire. Yet, Daniel swiftly counters, reminding Charlton of Kronos' initial aggression. If fairness is to be discussed, Daniel implies, it must begin with an acknowledgement of Kronos' initial transgressions. He warns Charlton that Cairo will not shy away from international scrutiny should Kronos refuse to engage in reasonable discourse. Baron Charlton addressed King Daniel with a solemn tone, advising him to act as he pleased regarding the Cairo situation. Though acknowledging that Cairo might be holding prisoners, Baron Charlton made it clear that Kronos would not entertain negotiations. Instead, he presented King Daniel with a consequential choice. Roman Dmitri must sever one of his arms. Baron Charlton suggested that if Roman personally arrived at the empire, offering his arm and kneeling in apology, the empire would cease pursuing the matter. The revelation left King Daniel in a state of shock, grappling with the gravity of the decision before him. Baron Charlton, undeterred, emphasized that should Cairo refuse, it would escalate into a full-scale war between the two powers. Setting a 10-day deadline, Baron Charlton urged King Daniel to declare his stance within that time frame. Frustrated and contemplating the potential weakness of Cairo that subjected it to such humiliation, King Daniel found himself at a crossroads, with the fate of his kingdom hanging in the balance. As the magical call concluded, Count Bittner approached, bearing news that intensified the gravity of the predicament. Kronos' empire, it seemed, had shifted its focus to Roman Dmitri, deeming him a potential future threat. King Daniel, however, staunchly defended Roman, emphasizing his heroic stature and the deep loyalty he commanded among Cairo's citizens. The implicit threat against Roman struck a chord with the king, prompting a decisive course of action. In response to the unfolding crisis, King Daniel wasted no time. He ordered his workers to summon Roman immediately, recognizing the urgency of a direct discussion with the valiant warrior. The fate of Cairo hung in the balance, and King Daniel sought Roman's counsel on navigating the treacherous waters of Kronos' demands. 2 days later, as Roman stood before King Daniel, the gravity of the situation weighed heavily in the air. The king recounted the details of the Kronos negotiations, exposing the harsh realities of the ultimatum presented by Baron Charlton. With a sense of shared concern, King Daniel turned to Roman, seeking guidance on the next steps. Roman, his gaze unwavering, advised against accepting Kronos' proposal, highlighting the inevitable consequence of Cairo becoming a vassal state. Instead, he proposed a bold move, his personal journey to the empire to confront the issue head-on. The suggestion to send him as Cairo's envoy carried both a sense of determination and sacrifice. However, King Daniel hesitated, recognizing the dangers that awaited Roman in the heart of the empire. Kronos sought punishment for him, and in the worst-case scenario, Roman's life could be at stake. A palpable tension filled the room as the fate of Cairo hung in the balance. Count Parchus, seizing the moment, stepped forward with a thoughtful suggestion. Acknowledging the risks of sending Roman directly into the lion's den, he proposed an alternative. Someone capable of conveying Cairo's stance effectively could be dispatched to negotiate with Kronos, sparing Roman from the immediate threat. As preparations for the envoy to the empire unfolded, King Daniel confronted Count Parchus with a critical decision. The king questioned whether Count Parchus was proposing to become the envoy himself. Count Parchus affirmed this proposition, expressing his readiness to represent Cairo and convey its stance to the formidable Kronos Empire. In considering Count Parchus for this pivotal role, King Daniel pondered the potential of this unexpected turn. Perhaps, he mused, Count Parchus was the right person for the task. Count Parchus, a prominent political figure in Cairo, possessed the acumen to read complex situations and make decisive decisions, a trait evident even during the time of Benedict. The fact that Count Parchus had aligned himself with Roman further underscored the authenticity of his capabilities. However, King Daniel, ever concerned for the safety of his subjects, voiced his apprehension. Entering the Kronos Empire held inherent risks, and the king queried whether Count Parchus was prepared to face such dangers. Count Parchus, with unwavering determination, assured King Daniel that he would exert every effort to execute the mission flawlessly. Turning to Roman for his perspective, King Daniel sought the warrior's opinion on this critical matter. The scene shifted to a corridor where Roman and Count Parchus traversed the corridors together. Roman, curious about Count Parchus's motivation, turned to him and inquired about the purpose behind volunteering as an envoy. Roman was keen to understand Count Parchus's aspirations and intentions in undertaking such a significant responsibility. Count Parchus's declaration to Roman was nothing short of candid. He acknowledged the inherent skepticism Roman might harbor towards a defector like himself. Yet, Count Parchus pledged his allegiance to Roman with unwavering determination. He made a solemn promise, asserting his desire to dedicate his life to serving Roman from that moment forth. Count Parchus saw the diplomatic mission as an opportunity to prove his loyalty, urging Roman to view his choice as a step towards cementing their bond. In his straightforward manner, Count Parchus made it clear that he didn't expect to be treated as one of Roman's trusted advisors. Instead, he sought to be utilized in a manner that would benefit Roman's interests. Count Parchus expressed a willingness to go to any lengths to live a life of power, wealth, and honor by Roman's side. His proposition was astonishingly frank, laying bare his ambitions and desires without reservation. Roman, initially taken aback by Count Parchus's candidness, couldn't help but feel a sense of admiration for the man's boldness. Count Parchus's request to be accepted as one of Roman's inner circle was a bold move, demonstrating a keen understanding of their lord-vassal relationship. Roman's smirk revealed his appreciation for Count Parchus's clarity of thought and purpose. Without hesitation, Roman accepted Count Parchus into his fold, assuring him that he would enjoy all the privileges and benefits that came with being one of Roman's trusted confidants. A few days later, as Count Parchus embarked on the diplomatic mission to Cairo, he found himself confronted by a family member's skepticism in a forest. The family member couldn't comprehend how Count Parchus could betray those he once served and still manage to survive. In response, Count Parchus offered a philosophical perspective on the nature of betrayal. He explained that there was a certain allure to betrayal, particularly when it involved aligning oneself with those in power. Count Parchus believed in serving alongside those who made bold sacrifices, even if it meant going against the hesitations of loyal subjects. To him, loyalty wasn't blind adherence, but rather a strategic alignment with those who had the power to shape destinies. The conversation between the man and Count Parchus took a reflective turn. The man suggested that strategically keeping defectors close and utilizing them could be advantageous. Count Parchus concurred, recognizing the potential benefits of seizing such an opportunity. He acknowledged that accepting a defector could be justified if it presented a chance to gain an upper hand. However, with a dismissive wave, Count Parchus halted the discussion, signaling an end to the lecture. Inwardly, Count Parchus contemplated his life as a defector. He admitted that living a life of betrayal was not something he enjoyed. He had chosen this path because he believed there was no one worthy of his unwavering loyalty. Yet, a flicker of amusement crossed his features as he considered the possibility that Roman Dmitri might be the exception to this rule. The scene shifted to the grandeur of the imperial capital, Alexander, where Count Parchus found himself in awe of the magnificence of the empire's castle. Led by a soldier, he observed the emblem on the soldier's armor shoulder, noting the remarkable spirit exuded despite the soldier belonging to the 7th Knight Order, a testament to his strength surpassing that of Count Nicholas. Approaching the door of the emperor's chamber, Count Parchus felt a wave of trepidation wash over him. As the door swung open, he felt as though he was stepping into a realm beyond mortal reach. Standing before the emperor, Count Parchus was acutely aware of the gravity of the situation. He knew that a single misstep could have dire consequences. As Count Parchus's gaze met the formidable figure of the emperor of the Kronos Empire, a weighty silence descended upon the room. The emperor, his presence commanding, directed his attention towards Count Parchus, inquiring if he was indeed Roman Dmitri. Caught off guard by the intensity of the moment, Count Parchus found it difficult to draw a steady breath, let alone form coherent words. Just as Count Parchus gathered his thoughts to respond, the soldier accompanying him acted forcefully, pushing his face to the ground. The emperor, Recognizing him as Roman Dmitri confirmed the expectation that Roman was to present himself and offer his arm personally. Expressing understanding of Cairo's stance, the emperor wasted no time in delivering a decisive blow. He ordered Count Parchus to be taken down and declared war against Cairo. The weight of the emperor's words hung heavy in the air, casting a shadow over the room. In a desperate attempt to avert disaster, Count Parchus raised his voice, vehemently protesting that Cairo did not seek an all-out war. Count Parchus, displaying a bold front, humbly requested permission to address the Emperor of Kronos. He proposed that he would speak first and then willingly face any consequences the emperor deemed appropriate. The emperor, intrigued by this audacious move, cautioned Count Parchus to be mindful of his words, as failure to convince him might lead to dire outcomes. With this weighty understanding, Count Parchus embarked on a delicate speech, aiming to convey the legitimacy of Cairo's position while maintaining the dignity of both parties. Choosing his words meticulously, Count Parchus navigated the complex terrain of diplomacy. He asserted that the Kronos Empire's intervention in the civil strife lacked sufficient justification, emphasizing that 5 kingdoms, excluding Valhalla, stood in support of Cairo's stance. This assertion was not made lightly, as it carried the weight of multiple nations behind it. The scene then transitioned to a night where Roman shared strategic insights with Count Parchus. Roman foresaw that while an alliance with 6 kingdoms might secure victory in a frontal war, the real challenge lay in the aftermath, particularly in dealing with potential hostilities from Valhalla. Roman advised Count Parchus to highlight this concern, as it represented the most prudent choice for Cairo. Returning to the present, Count Parchus reiterated Cairo's pursuit of peace. He conveyed that if, under these circumstances, Kronos still desired war, the emperor could take action against him. Surprisingly, the emperor acknowledged the rationale presented by Count Parchus. In exchange for the release of Kronos prisoners, he agreed to temporarily overlook the matter. However, the treatment of Roman Dmitri remained a separate issue. The emperor declared that an assassin would target Roman each night as a form of retribution for the deaths of Kronos soldiers. This revelation left Count Parchus stunned, prompting a cascade of questions within his mind. Did the Emperor of Kronos harbor a hidden desire for an all-out war with Cairo from the outset? The Emperor of Kronos had a clear agenda: to push Cairo into a corner by using the leverage of Roman Dmitri to secure the release of Kronos prisoners, thereby restoring the empire's prestige. This calculated move aimed to assert Kronos' dominance and regain lost ground on the political stage. The emperor emphasized to Count Parchus that such tactics would no longer be effective in the future, indicating a shift in strategy towards more direct and forceful approaches. Upon hearing this, Count Parchus couldn't help but feel a sense of disappointment. He had hoped to demonstrate his capabilities but realized that his efforts had fallen short. The realization dawned on him that the emperor's intentions had been far more complex than he initially perceived. The scene then shifted to Roman's office, where Count Parchus sought forgiveness for his perceived failure. To his surprise, Roman commended Count Parchus for his efforts, assuring him that he had done well despite the difficult circumstances. Count Parchus, taken aback by Roman's response, questioned whether Roman had anticipated the outcome. In response, Roman explained that Kronos had always been singularly focused on Roman and that the threats against him were to be expected. Concerned for Roman's safety, Count Parchus inquired if Roman would be all right. Roman reassured him that he would handle the situation himself and advised Count Parchus not to worry. Gazing out of the window, Roman contemplated the perennial specter of assassination that seemed to weave itself seamlessly into Baek Young-hyuk's existence. In the recesses of his thoughts, Roman mused, pondering which agents of the Kronos Empire the emperor would dispatch this time to carry out their ominous agenda. In the grand halls of the royal palace, a pivotal moment unfolded as King Daniel shifted the scene. With an air of gravity, he confronted Count Gregory, accusing him of jeopardizing the security of the Cairo kingdom through his collaboration with the Kronos Empire. King Daniel, his regal presence undeterred, questioned Count Gregory about his involvement. Count Gregory, acknowledging his actions, pondered aloud whether his allegiance to the Kronos Empire was misguided. He pressed further, questioning if anyone in the kingdom was oblivious to his connection with the enemy. King Daniel, with a stern expression, declared that Count Gregory's admission alone branded him a traitor to the Cairo kingdom. Undeterred, Count Gregory retorted, suggesting that it might be the king who was gravely mistaken. He warned King Daniel that eliminating him on the spot would not go unanswered by the formidable Kronos Empire, whose emperor had already vowed revenge in blood. With conviction, Count Gregory urged King Daniel to reconsider his decision, proposing an alternative. Rather than face the consequences within the kingdom, he suggested that the king send him directly to the Kronos Empire, arguing that it would be a wiser choice for the safety of Cairo. As the tense exchange unfolded, King Daniel found himself contemplating Count Gregory's words. He acknowledged a thread of truth in the Count's assertions. Indeed, King Daniel had entertained the notion of executing all those with ties to the Kronos Empire. However, he now realized the potential consequences. Should Count Gregory face his fate, the wrath of the Kronos Empire might shift its gaze towards Roman Dmitri. In that charged moment, Roman interjected, expressing a pressing desire to speak. Addressing King Daniel directly, Roman revealed a chilling proclamation. The Emperor of Kronos had decreed that Roman would pay with his own blood. Yet, Roman swiftly diverted the conversation, emphasizing that this matter was distinct from Count Gregory's. Roman made a compelling argument, contrasting Count Gregory's significance with that of other figures. Unlike Count Fabius and Knight Captain Gustavo, Count Gregory held far less sway. Moreover, Roman asserted that the Kronos Empire's attention was already fixated on him. He reminded King Daniel that even if Count Gregory were eliminated, it would not alter the trajectory set in motion since the execution of Benedict. The era of Cairo's peace had come to an abrupt end. With conviction, Roman urged King Daniel to grasp the weight of the decision before him. The future of Cairo hung in the balance. As the weight of Roman's words settled upon King Daniel, a profound sense of indebtedness washed over him once more. Stepping forward, King Daniel conveyed the enduring gratitude of the Cairo royal family for Roman Dimitri's unwavering devotion. However, the gravity of the situation demanded a stern address. King Daniel asserted that Count Gregory's transgressions extended beyond mere collusion with the Kronos Empire. They tarnished the very honor of Cairo. Despite Count Gregory's attempts to interject, King Daniel silenced him, declaring that, as a traitor who had imperiled the kingdom, execution was the only just consequence. The scene transitioned to Cairo Plaza, where Count Gregory, reflecting on his foolishness, pondered an alternative course of action. Instead of attempting to win Roman over, he realized he should have treated Roman Dmitri as a potential threat to the empire. Undeterred, Count Gregory proposed to Roman that he still had the chance to pledge loyalty to the empire, emphasizing Roman's insignificance compared to the vast power of Kronos. He pointed out that Gustavo, the adversary Roman had faced, ranked only 78th within the continent, a stark reminder of the empire's formidable might. Count Gregory's voice carried a note of urgency as he continued to address Roman. He spoke of Valhalla, a realm where countless individuals possessed strength beyond even Roman's reckoning. He challenged Roman's belief in his ability to face these formidable adversaries alone, urging him to consider the consequences wisely. Even if Roman's dealings with the Kronos Empire concluded, Count Gregory warned, Valhalla remained a looming threat. He emphasized that if he were executed, Roman's ties with Valhalla would be irrevocably severed. Roman's response was unexpected. He calmly expressed anticipation for the impending confrontation. Count Gregory, taken aback, accused Roman of foolishness for willingly antagonizing the two most powerful factions on the continent. Thus, the stage was set for the downfall of Cairo's three factions. Meanwhile, within the confines of the royal palace, King Daniel turned his attention to Count Vanderburg. Praise filled his words as he commended the Count for his leadership on the western front line, where he had successfully repelled the forces of the Kronos Empire. Amidst the chaos of the Kronos invasion, Count Vanderburg emerged as a beacon of valor, bringing honor to Cairo through his courageous actions. In recognition of his deeds, King Daniel bestowed upon him the prestigious title of Marquis, along with additional territory to govern. However, King Daniel's praise did not end there. He acknowledged the bravery of others who had fought tirelessly on the western front line against the Kronos onslaught. Baron Noel, Flora Lawrence, and Roman Dmitri were singled out for their remarkable contributions to the war effort. As a token of appreciation, King Daniel elevated their status and rewarded each with a generous sum of gold.